Hi there, guitar players. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about keys, and we're going to talk a little bit about chords and how they work together. Okay? Hang on, this might be a bumpy ride. All right, first of all, we've talked before, if you've been following all these videos, we've been talking about how to figure out what key you're in. Well, it's very, very simple. 99% of the time, even more than that, you can bet, that the chord that a song starts on is going to be the same chord that it ends on. Not every single time, but most of the time, most of the time. So if a song begins in C, the chances of it ending on a C chord is very good. And when that happens, you automatically know that you are in the key of C. Okay? If a song begins on G, you ready for this? You're already ahead of me, aren't you? And it ends in G, what key do you think you're in? G, that's right, good, okay. All right, so if you have a song that begins on the key, on the chord D and ends on D, you are in the key of D, that's right, okay. And that's how it works. Now, if your song begins on an A minor, and ends on an A minor, guess what? You are in the key of A minor. There is such a thing. There's major keys, there's minor keys, all right? There's other variations of all this, but this is the simple, basic information that you really need. And it sounds kind of like this, okay? You're in the key of C, and you're coming up to the end. I started on a C and I ended on a C. That's what it sounds like. Very complete, kind of a nice bookend. Some songs that you listen to on the internet or radio or wherever you listen to music, some songs fade out. But that's a mechanical trick. Those songs you can't really tell first chord and last chord because you never hear the last chord. But when those songs are played live, they have to end somewhere. And guess what? They're going to end more than likely on the same chord as the first chord. It's just the way it's done, okay? Well, now that we've established that, when you're in a key, you have a series of chords that just sound good in that key. And it's all done by letter names, all right? But if you're in the key of C, that means that everything starts with C. If you're in the key of D, everything is counted and spelled from the D, and so on. If you're in G, everything starts with the G. And when that happens, it's called the one chord, all right? In the key of C, C is the one chord. In the key of A minor is the one chord. In the key of E flat, there is such a thing, it's all bar chords. In the key of E flat is your one chord. Well, okay, so in the key of C, or in any key, you have a series of chords that are going to get used more often than others. They are the one chord, the four chord, and the five chord. Again, you're starting with the one chord being the first chord, last chord, the name of your key. Let's take C. C is now your one chord. So what's the four chord? Well, you start with one being C. C, D, alphabetically, E, F. Oh, there's four. C, D, E, F. So your four chord is an F chord. And son of a gun, that's what you expect to hear. Okay? Now, the five chord in that case is C, D, E, F. And the five, of course, is one more than four, so the letter name is going to be the next letter name, F, G. So now your chord progression is C, F, G, because that's the one, the four, and the five. Does that make sense so far? I hope so. If not, you need to write to me and ask, okay? But that's how the thing works. You count alphabetically from whatever the one is, and that's whatever key you're in, first chord, last chord. So here's your chord progression in the key of C. C, F, G. That's the 5 chord. And back to the 1 chord. Sometimes the chord progression goes 1, 4, 5, and then back to the 4 chord and back to the 1, but that's where it would end, first chord, last chord. So you might have a 1, 4, 5, 4. And if we speed that up, you have Good Lovin', you have Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, you have a lot of songs that sound just like that. Okay, that's the key of C. Now let's move on to the key of G, only because a lot of people play in G because there's a lot of songs written in the key of G, okay? The Eagles would be lost without the key of G. Anyway, here we go with the key of G. Now, all of a sudden, G is your 1 chord. Here we go alphabetically. Remember that in the musical alphabet, there's only 7 letter names. So it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and when you get to G, you go back to A. Okay, so the letter name after G is another A. Okay, so it's a loop. All right, so your 1 chord is G. G, A, B, C. C was the 1 chord in the key of C, but now in the key of G, the C is the 4 chord. It sounds like this, which is very similar to this. It's just a different key, that's all. So you've got G, you've got C, and the next number, 5 chord, will be the next letter name. Well, if you're on a C, the next letter name is D. So your chord progression now goes C, or G rather, G, key of G, C, D. And back to the 4 chord. Or you could just stay on the 4, on the 5, here we go, stay there, and back to the 1, beginning, ending on G. If we were in the key of D, let's say, all right, and what I'm doing is choosing keys that you're going to find a lot of songs in those keys. Basically, major keys, non-minor keys, are going to be C, G, D, A, and E. We'll get them all, okay? Here's the D chord, okay? Key of D. All of a sudden, D is 1. D, E, F, G. Well, oh, that was just the 1 chord. Now it's the 4 chord. There's a pattern developing here. Pay attention, okay? D, the 1, G, and then what do you think the next chord is? Say A. That's A, that's good, that's right. See, you're starting to catch on to it. D, G, A. Sounds like this. Familiar, huh? But it has a different feel to it than and it has to do with the combination of notes in these chords playing against each other that makes it sound a little bit different. You would choose one of these combinations depending on what key you want to sing a song in because it'll fit your voice better. If you have a very high voice, you might choose the key of C, but if you have a lower voice, you might go to the key of G. Or if you have a high voice, you might pick the key of G. And then if you have a lower voice, you might pick the key of C. It depends on you. It depends on the pitch of your voice. And that's not something I can tell you. You've just got to try it out. Okay? So we've done the key of C. We've done the key of G. We've done the key of D. The next one is the key of A. Why am I going to the key of A? Because we just did D. D, E, F, G, A. And the A now becomes 1. Watch this. A, B, C, D. Huh. There's that pattern again. The last key that we just did becomes the 4 chord. D, E, F, G, or I'm sorry, A, B, C, D, and the next letter name is E. Well, here's the A chord, here's the D, and here's the E. All right? This particular key and this particular combination of chords, especially when you do the 1, the 4, the 5, back to the 4, the A, D, E, D, that's going to be songs like ROCK in the USA. It's going to be What I Like About You. It's going to be Wild Thing. One chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, and back to 1. Okay? And that's how you use that. Or you could just play more folky. It doesn't sound like any of those songs, does it? Well, anyway, okay, let's move on. Now, we just had the key of A, B, C, D, E, so we're going to go to the key of E next, and this is the last key we'll talk about right now. All right? One of these days we'll get to minor keys, not today. All right, the E, right? E is now 1. E, F, G, A. Oh, son of a gun, we did it again. The last 1 chord now has become the 4 chord pattern. All right? If A is now 4, A, B. B is a bar chord. But you could substitute a B7. Now, B7 takes a lot of fingers, but there's no bar involved, and it looks like this. Okay? If you're not sure, look up B7 on the internet. There'll be tons of chord charts there, and maybe there'll be a tutorial about how to play a B7. Look it up if you're not sure about it, but you can substitute that because a B7 in this case will just take the place of the bar chord B, unless you happen to know the bar chord. I do, you might not. Okay, well, either way. So you have your 1 chord. A chord is your 4 chord. The B7 is substituting for the 5 chord. Back to the 4 chord. And you end on the 1 chord. You don't always have to play it in 4/4 like I was doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and so on. Okay, you can do this in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you can double it up. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. End on the 1 chord. Okay, so what it does is it just basically takes it around in a big loop. Now that's a little bit of information about how keys work in 5 different keys. So you can start to improvise or just plain change keys. When you change keys, if you wanted to say start a song in the key of A and then move it to the key of C right in the middle, it's referred to as a modulation. And you can just jump onto it. So you have... and I brought it right back to the key it started in, the 1 chord. Well, anyway, that's a little bit about keys. I hope this all makes sense and that you can try it by yourself. And just roll this back, roll the little cursor thing there in the bottom back and watch it again. Try it out and take it piece by piece. But this is the 1, 4, and 5 chord in the keys of C, G, D, A, and E. And just have fun with it. And if you have any questions or you have an idea for another lesson, contact me. I will respond, I promise. Okay? So until next time, just keep playing and have fun with it.